How safe are you against a cybersecurity threat? Not only are the number of security breaches reported to be up, they're increasing in severity. Dr. Bill Riles is a cybersecurity expert. He's the Associate Director of Tulane University's School of Professional Advancement Information Technology program. Dr. Riles, welcome to NewsPoint.
Thank you for having me.
Twitter is still piecing together information about that massive hack that compromised some 130 accounts. How difficult is it to pull off a hack of this nature?
That's a good question. The Twitter hack is gaining a lot of newsworthy events. It's the hot topic right now. And that happens every time there's a large breach. Everybody gets excited about cybersecurity. So to your question, how difficult is it to pull off a hack like that? Well, in terms of technology, it's not that difficult. The surprising thing about hacks and information security is not as there's some sophistication behind it, but it's not what you think. In this case of the Twitter attack, as with other large-scale breaches, is typically not the system itself. It's other ancillary systems that may be connected. One example that everyone remembers is the Target breach a few years ago. Target got hacked, millions and millions of accounts and money got transferred potentially. But what happened was the nefarious actors, the criminals, didn't breach Target systems. They breached a heating, air, and cooling systems vendor that connected to Target, the weakest link. That's kind of what happened with this Twitter attack. The individuals accused of carrying out this hack, what they did not go into directly through the Twitter systems. It was the admin side of the IT staff at Twitter. So they didn't go directly into the celebrity's Twitter account and hack their passwords. They went on the back end through a communications channel, an instant messaging platform that the staff at Twitter used. They think that's just something we use for internal office communications. They got into that, and the employees at Twitter happened to share some of the administrative passwords. They use that to get in. So it is sophisticated, but not what you think. It's not, what you see in the movies. The hacking is not what you see in the movies.
Well, the purpose of that hack at first glance appears to be a scam to transfer funds to a Bitcoin account. But what are the more serious consequences of a social media hack like that?
Well, if you get your personal credentials compromised, there's a vast array of liability that exists for yourself and the others that you connect with. One is you're damaging to your online reputation. Our online reputation is becoming a more and more important part of our persona of our lives. So someone could tweet or post something about you that you actually didn't write. And it's hard to put a dollar sign on that, but it is existing. There's a thing called doxing. So someone has your account and they have other information they find all across the internet. They can post things as you that you might not want get out there, and that could be damaging. This could be used for harassment. But there's also a financial impact as well. Most users, now these were celebrities in this Twitter hack that got all this newsworthy. Most of the average users like you and I, if we have accounts, we don't even know that they've been compromised. So someone could be inside there seeing our messages and using them without our knowledge. This one really gained a lot of news because they were asking for money right off the bat. That's whoa, and that shined a big light on it. So these stolen credentials, that's one thing that's a negative impact to the user, but also it can be used as a jump point to other systems. Oftentimes, different social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they all are kind of interconnected. And even though a nefarious actor has the access to one, they need to get to other ones as well. And sometimes you can validate your identity just by logging into one platform over another. So it's bigger than just that one platform. It can jump to other platforms and have a larger impact as well. Then there's the identity theft. By having more access to your online accounts, you have access to other things in that profile that are personally identifiable information that could be used for other type of identity theft that could be detrimental as well.
Well, since working from home during the pandemic, how significant is the rise in cybersecurity attacks and how vulnerable are we?
I love that question because I'm gonna tell you a staggering stat. There's been reports with a 900% increase in phishing attempts that are focused around coronavirus and COVID-19. That's not a typo. I'm not saying 9% or 90, over 900%. These are fake emails with something to do with coronavirus or COVID-19. Fake CDC emails used for phishing attempts. Fake government programs for different monies and support and subsidies. Fake GoFundMe accounts to support the research on the virus. And what these fake accounts and fake phishing attempts do is try to get the users to click on something that they normally wouldn't to launch a cyber attack. Now, because there's a lot of fear and a lot of concern with COVID-19 going around, users are more apt to click on that. So the cyber criminals are taking advantage of the public's fear and anxiety towards COVID-19, towards pandemic, to get them to click on links and things they normally wouldn't have, so the criminals can launch different cyber attacks. And the attacks are maybe a little different. They're focused. They're not only are they rising, they're different because they're focused on home use. A lot of times a business executive is doing work from home. And typically the home network is not as protected as it would be from the protected borders of your corporate network. So, and the cyber criminals know that. They know that the business executives getting all their files at their house. They're conducting business as usual, but they're not behind the protection that they would normally receive at the corporate network. So the attacks are more focused on home type network defenses, which is in the past they wasn't. And also there was a big rush for telework. Once the pandemic started, government agencies and business all across the globe and in our country made a mad rush to get employees to work from home. And because it was done so quickly, certain security considerations may have got put behind. Hey, I just need to get my employees access to my corporate network. I'll open the hole in the firewall. I'll get them access. Hey, they're working. I'm gonna move on to the next fire. Well, that's a security penetration tester's nightmare. That's a hacker's dream, because there's certain things you just kind of forget about. It's working. Everything's working, business as usual, let me move on, but that could be a security risk as well. So not only has it been an increase in the cyber attacks, the focus is a little different now in the course of the pandemic.
So protection is absolutely key. What are some of the best strategies for keeping your accounts and your personal information safe?
Well, that's a never-ending, ongoing question. From a personal user standpoint, some of the best things you can do to keep your personal account safe is to use proper cyber hygiene. Now, cyber hygiene is how you interact in this digital world, how you get in the internet. The internet's a big, wild place, and I would say to limit your accounts. If you don't need an account to a social media or internet platform, cancel that account and remove your information. A dormant account that you may have forgotten about, that you rarely ever check, is prime targets for hackers. Because like I said earlier, oftentimes us as users will not know that our account's been compromised. And especially as an account that we rarely ever check, we would never know the activity. So what they would do, these dormant accounts, they're easy to hack, and you're typically, most users will use the same password for multiple accounts. So if they get into one account that you've never even checked before, never even looked at, chances are that password is going to work in multiple accounts as well. And not only that, you can use that one account to almost attack other users as well. So the one period of advice: if you don't need the account, if you don't use it on a regular, cancel that account, remove your information. There's some other things you can do. Nothing is 100%, but increasing your cyber hygiene. Still, in these online platforms, the best the way you authenticate is through a username and password. So have a strong password. I mentioned earlier about most users have the same password for multiple accounts. So that's one bit of advice: is don't do that. Have a separate password for every different online presence you have. That's a good bit of advice, but then it gets difficult. Man, I got this password for this site, this password for this. How do you keep up with all that? So you can invest in a password manager like LastPass or OnePass or LostPass, something like that it keeps the password for you. Most of the good ones cost a little bit, but it's not a lot of money. It's well worth the investment. If any site that you have access to will allow you to use two-factor authentication, that's highly recommended. What two-factor authentication does is you'll get a text message or a code or something sent to another device, an email or text message or a phone call, that verifies that you actually signing into that account. And by doing that, that's another factor. So you can assume that one day an attacker will have your password. It happens. So if they do, you need that other factor to get into your account. So that's a bit of advice, and only use trusted accounts in trusted type platforms. If you see some other platform you never heard of before, but you get a message from a friend, it's, oh, you need to click on this, you need to start using this site, it's awesome. Be very wary of that. Be cautious, be prudent about some of where you put your username and password across the internet. And if you do use passwords, be sure that they're strong, and you want to change them pretty often. When I say strong, you want to make them 10 characters with upper and lower case, with some special characters and some numbers and things like that. Try not to ever, I would advise most of your users to not use public computers for any type of social media where you have to enter in a username and password. Only use trusted devices that is yours, that you control. And also be wary about entering in information, even if it's your trusted device. If you're at a coffee shop and you're on their public network they offer for free, a lot of times hackers will use this to steal credentials, because you get in and log in. So anytime you're on any free or public internet, Wi-Fi, be very wary of entering any username or password, especially not any financial information in public Wi-Fi, public computers, and things like that.
Safe cyber hygiene. Dr. Riles, thank you so much for providing us with some practical tips to keep ourselves safe. We appreciate you joining NewsPoint today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I enjoyed it.